Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our webinar this morning. My name is Dion van Aert. I'm with Wonderware UK and Ireland. And I'm very excited this morning talking about InTouch Edge and a subject that I'm really passionate about and that I think is going to change the world, and that's the industrial Internet of Things. Now, a lot of customers that I visit complain to me that they really sit in a catch-22 situation with the equipment that they've got on hand. It's sometimes relatively old equipment, but it's difficult for them to justify the replacement of this equipment, and they want to try and get as much life out of this equipment as they can, as it is expensive to maintain, it's expensive to update, to upgrade, it's expensive to replace. So obviously they want to get the best possible life out of their equipment. But it's and they realize by monitoring this equipment better, getting more information out of the equipment, they'll be able to maintain and run this equipment better. But then again, they're faced with the cost of actually putting sensors on, putting in new PLC systems and HMI and SCADA systems to actually monitor this equipment. So there's really a good alternative to this, and the world of IoT has provided us with this new alternative of installing really low-cost IoT sensors that are mostly wireless and battery-powered onto these machines at a very low cost, very rapidly, connect them up into a cloud environment, which means you can deploy these things rapidly. You don't have to install hardware on site. There's no hardware to maintain. And you can use things like software as a service to eliminate the high costs in terms of capital projects. So it's not a big project that you've got to start with a high capital cost. You connect to the cloud. You get a system up and running quite rapidly. But of course, you need to get your data into the cloud from these sensors. And this is where our solution really comes into play in terms of our InTouch Edge HMI that provides this gateway into the cloud. And of course, once you've connected to the cloud, it provides all the facilities to monitor, manage and compare the performance and efficiencies of machines and really get the extra life out of these machines that you've never had before by enhancing your things like your maintenance strategies. And then you can go further. You can expand this, of course, by using IoT technology and the Internet to manage a whole fleet of equipment. So if you've got a geographically dispersed environment where you've got a number of plants or sites running across the country or across the world, you can actually manage this entire fleet of equipment using this kind of technology that enables you to compare the performance of your equipment across the entire fleet, to uncover opportunities for improvement, and gives you a central operations management center where people can come together and they can evaluate how they are performing on a global scale and really get the most out of their equipment. But it's not just for old or aging equipment. It's also for new equipment. It's suited to machine builders. Machine builders are always looking for cost-effective ways of managing their machines and supplying them to the end users. So they're looking for simple but powerful HMIs at a reasonable cost, and InTouch Edge is perfect in that environment. It's got a very high degree of templatization that it offers, so you can quickly and rapidly deploy it to different kinds of machines. As OEMs normally produce variants of the same kind of machines that needs little bits of tweaks here and there, and with InTouch Edge you can easily templatize these things and make it easy to adapt it to different kinds of environments. It also helps our OEMs or machine builders provide more service to their customers. They can provide a service by monitoring their own equipment. So they could be monitoring the equipment that they supply to all the end users across the world and give themselves an early warning system to prevent potential problems at customers. Also enhance and monitor and see how well their equipment is performing out in the field. They can then sell this on to customers as software as a service so that customers can get access to this information and in the same way manage their fleet, their own equipment and compare the performance of machines and see what is going on with the machines, giving them the facility to better manage their own machines. And then you can do some very funky things like just-in-time delivery of consumable materials from your suppliers, because your machine can inform you now via the IoT environment that it needs or that it's running out of labels, and then your supplier can get that message and supply you with those labels, and you don't need to carry huge amounts of stock, which of course costs a lot of money. But not only machine builders, if we look at environments like infrastructure, water, rail, smart cities, is by nature a geographically dispersed environment with equipment spread out over a wide area. And InTouch Edge provides the perfect mechanism to connect all these things together. And once again, we're talking about managing, monitoring, providing early warning systems to prevent potential problems, enabling central operations management centers to get the information from all the remote locations, and it provides a mechanism for active management of resources. So it's not just monitoring. You can actually do a remote control and machine-to-machine automation. So machines can talk to each other. We can activate systems and control systems very effectively by using our InTouch Edge environment. Another use for InTouch Edge is in outsourced plants. Now, these are normally plants like an oxygen plant or a compressor plant that you have on site, but it's managed by a third-party entity. So these outsourced plants can also be effectively managed by InTouch Edge. Again, it provides a powerful HMI or SCADA at a reasonable cost, and it allows you to manage and monitor these systems on a large scale. You can compare your different sites' performances. So you have, and in a lot of cases, these are similar plants that are running across the world, and the provider of this plant or the management entity of these plants would like to make sure that all these plants are running efficiently and get to problems as soon as possible to solve them. And once again, we can get into this just-in-time delivery of consumable environments, because in a lot of cases, the outsourcing entity is also responsible for providing the plant with consumable either input materials or cleaning materials or things like that. So the plant can become intelligent in itself and tell the supplier that I need more input materials. Okay, so this brings us to the concept of edge computing. As we saw, we can connect to nearly anything out there, and it'll augment these systems with our InTouch Edge HMI, and it really performs the role of a smart IoT gateway, where it takes the information or data, it's in most cases data that you get from the existing control systems that might be running in these remote sites, and then adds context to the data, does preparation of the data. We find in a lot of cases that the raw signals need some interpretation for it to become useful in the data collection process. So we can prepare this data, we can do pre-processing of KPI calculations, and also event detection and send this up into our cloud environment. So what is required of an IIoT gateway? So there's several requirements from an IIoT gateway. The first is that it needs to be able to get signals from a wide variety of devices. So as you saw in all the examples that I showed you, you might be connecting to PLCs, to remote I/O, to different kinds of machines, and then to the more modern wireless IIoT devices. So you need device connectors into all of this, and you need the ability to condition these signals and add context to these signals that you are getting from your different devices out there. The next is that you need a secure cloud connection. So security in terms of a gateway is of utmost importance. So it needs to provide a secure connection into either public or a private cloud, and it needs to have some kind of platform where you can do something useful with the data that you're sending into the cloud. So it needs, as a minimum, to provide a data store, some kind of visualization monitoring, some kind of real-time operations management facilities, and analytics, machine learning, and all those kinds of good things that we know that the industrial Internet of Things can offer us. The next it needs to provide is data buffering, because by nature of the Internet, connections could be intermittent, they could be slow. It needs to provide the facility for machine-to-machine communication, so that you could actually send commands between machines in this environment. It should be able to run on multiple platforms, on a range of devices, and very important, it should be able to run on a very small footprint, from normal Windows 10 right down to a small Linux box. And then the devices and the system must be managed from within the cloud environment. So if you've got a whole lot of scattered equipment over a geographical area, you can't drive to or fly to each one of these every time there's a problem. You need to be able to manage those devices remotely using cloud technology. The solution needs to be scalable. You might start off with just a few devices, but then you might rapidly scale out as you prove that the system works well. And then you also need the facility of a local user interface that we find in a lot of these applications. So there needs to be local monitoring and control at the device, and access to information from this device via a web browser or a mobile device like a smartphone or a tablet. And of course, InTouch Edge ticks all of these boxes, and it's really strong in all of these areas. So one of the things that really does well is integration into these field devices. And one of these is the superior native tag integration that it provides to a whole lot of different popular devices, from OPC UA to the popular PLC brands. So if you've got a PLC that you need to integrate to, it could natively integrate to the PLC system, which means you don't have to create tags in the system. It will natively use the variables as defined in the automation system, which means it's always in sync with the controller or the source of information, which means less configuration on your side and a very quick project delivery. And of course, it will make your life easy in maintaining the thing, as you don't have to maintain two separate tag databases in the system. Next thing, it runs on any kind of a platform. So we can have it in SCADA Edge environments running on the full Windows environment. We can run it in the embedded environment, including the latest Windows IoT offering. It could run on the Windows Compact Edition, and then it can also run on the Linux environment. So we can really scale up from a very small device to larger and more powerful devices. But very important in this is that it's got a single development environment. So it doesn't matter which platform I'm running it on. So it could be a Linux environment, could be a Windows environment, doesn't really matter. I do my development in one place, and I can deploy to any one of these platforms. And then, of course, the next thing we said that was important is that we need to offer services in the cloud so that the data that we're collecting and processing from the edge we can use in an intelligent way, in a way that helps us run our businesses better. And that is provided by our AVEVA Insight cloud-based offering. I'm not going to go into too much detail of that today, but it provides all those services that I talked about, of historizing the data into the cloud, providing the analytic information, the performance management information, asset health and predictive maintenance, and all of that good stuff. InTouch Edge is not the only connector into this environment, so our cloud-based environment can actually accept data from various sources, not just InTouch Edge, but InTouch Edge, of course, integrates into this environment natively. So in front of you, you'll see that it's one of the screens from its configuration environment, where you simply put in the URL to our cloud-based services, you put in your authentication token, and there you go, and it provides the full buffering capability. So if there is a slow or intermittent connection into the cloud environment, the system will handle that data for you. Now, real-time monitoring control is also an important capability to have in this environment. So yes, people most probably would start off a solution like this by just monitoring equipment and get great value out of monitoring the equipment and ensuring that they're running efficiency. But we realize that after a while, as the environment matures, our customers would be able to like to more actively manage the equipment that is running remotely. So InTouch Edge supports a protocol called MQTT, which is a protocol that's been designed for the IoT environment, and it allows you to manage and control in real time a whole number of devices and send them back to a central control center, where we could use something like our Wonderware system platform to give you a central operations center using our InTouch operations management interface, or OMI, to manage and actually control the different entities or devices that are sitting out there in the field, by providing monitoring, comparing and managing capabilities so that you can enable continuous improvement initiatives, diagnose and troubleshoot what's going on in the field, and really enhance team collaboration and knowledge across a wide area. So building these central management centers or centers of excellence is really easy using the technologies that we provide by our Edge and our system platform and cloud-based solutions. We also provide machine-to-machine communication via InTouch Edge with our support of OPC UA in both a client and a server capacity. This enables one edge device to be able to talk to another edge device. Well, you might ask, why would one want to do this? Well, you might have a supply chain where one site needs to tell another site, for instance, that it's running out of raw materials and it needs to dispatch something to that site. And we can automate these processes using our edge environment and similarly connect to central decision-making systems where you can automate the decisions and then actually initiate procedures at remote sites using this technology. Email integration also comes standard with InTouch Edge, so you can connect really to any kind of email system, and it does so in a secure manner. And if you have, for instance, something like an alarm, you can enable automatic notifications of critical conditions to be sent to relevant people in your organization using this capability of InTouch Edge. We also talked about managing your Edge devices. Now, coming standard with InTouch Edge is an Azure add-in, which means you can use the Azure environment and you can remotely manage without requiring direct access to the devices, machines across the globe using this environment. Web browser clients also come standard as part of InTouch Edge. So you could use any HTML5 compliant browser and get access to your InTouch Edge. It supports a full client-server environment with up to 1,000 browser clients that can connect to its built-in web server. And by the way, the web server can run on Internet Information Server or on the Apache web server that you most of the time find in the Linux environment. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little bit what the nuts and bolts of InTouch Edge looks like. And in this demonstration, I'm going to show you quickly how we're going to connect to an OPC UA source. Of course, we're going to do it securely, making sure in all of this we use secure connections, how we can securely access that information from the Edge device with a web browser, and then take the data, send it to our AVEVA Insight system, once again securely, and then access that information from the cloud using any web browser and be able to do something intelligent with the information that we're logging into our cloud environment. Okay, so what you see in front of you is the development or the integrated development environment of InTouch Edge. So familiar, easy to use, point-and-click configuration environment that you're used to in the Wonderware environment. Everything is easy to use. It's very quick to learn. We've got instructional videos on how to get into this thing quickly, how to set up your system quickly. I'm going to start off by doing a little bit of OPC UA integration into some kind of device that I might have out there in the field. So I'm going to go there to my connections and just show you what the setup of the OPC UA looks like. So there I point to my OPC UA server. I put in the URL, and very important here is the security. So fully with passwords, signing and encrypting, using both server and client certificates. So it's fully encrypted, fully secure, and you can test the connection, make sure that it connects to your OPC UA device. And now one of the things that I talked about was rapidly developing application. So I'm going to quickly show you an example. I've pre-built a little bit of stuff. I'm going to add something onto this. So the normal environment that most of you are used to in InTouch, you draw something on the screen and you quickly want to animate it and get data out there. So I've got a motor temperature I want to monitor, so I quickly put up my hashes which I want to animate, and then I wanted to put in a data link to that. And normally you'll put in your tag here. But what you can do with InTouch Edge is you can actually browse directly now to this OPC UA connection. So there I go directly to my OPC UA connection to my machine. And there I've got a conveyor where I'm monitoring a whole lot of stuff about that conveyor. I don't have to create these tags. I just browse directly into my OPC UA server, get the data, save what I've developed. I then publish it as a HTML screen. So I save it as HTML, save my project, put my project into runtime, open my web browser. I've got my Firefox. I love Firefox. and I go to mobile access, and of course it's got full security. You'll see security. I was just too lazy to put in the username and password, but it's a secure connection, and there, it's running. You can see the motor temperature, everything is running. So you can use any HTML5 web browser, and you can see I can change the size of my web browser. It'll scale to fit the window. So very rapidly, I can develop applications, provide them to my users using web browser. Of course, the next step, I want to get this data into the cloud environment, and this comes standard, of course, with InTouch Edge. So first step is I set up my connection into my AVEVA Insight. So I'm going to create a new connection. You give your connection a name. You can name it anything. You can connect to multiple solutions. It immediately takes me to my AVEVA Insight publisher. I can decide which of the data centers in the world I'm going to use, and you can use an existing account, or you can subscribe to a new account on the fly. By the way, it will give you a 45-day test account. So if you want to test this out, you can install the software, test it, run it for 45 days, and see if you like our cloud-based solution. Put in my username and password. Of course, I've got an existing in there, so I'm going to give my source a new name in my cloud environment. And I'm calling it my Edge. So this is for my edgy stuff. And then I start the publishing process. The next thing I need to do is to say, what do I want to publish? Which one of my, what pieces of information do I want to publish? And I just do it in the configuration over here. So this is where I say which tags do I want to publish, and it includes things here you can see, store and forward for those intermittent connections. I run my project, and I can now go to online.wonderware.com, access my cloud-based solution, sign into it, and try and get access to the information. So let's sign in and go to my home page of my Insight, hopefully. And Insight is very intuitive. I've got some edgy stuff. You remember I called my stuff Edge stuff, so I'm just going to do a quick search for Edge stuff. And there I've got 5 things that I logged using my Edge device, and immediately I've got access to this. So in a few minutes, in literally less than an hour, you're able to install the software on the Edge, create a small little app, logging some data and publishing it into the cloud environment, opening a web browser and giving you full access to that information and all the analysis capabilities that we have with our cloud-based Insight solution. Okay. So to summarize, InTouch Edge really makes it easy to take advantage of this IIoT environment. I know for a lot of people, IIoT is just a buzzword, but with InTouch Edge, we really make it a reality so that you can actually deliver on the promises of IoT. And with our AVEVA Insight, you can get immediate access to that data that you're getting from the Edge on your web browser, but it's also got mobile capabilities, so you can use your mobile device to get access to the information. Using OPC UA and our MQTT capabilities, you can enable central operations centers, central control rooms, centers of excellence, and even give the data to people using the tablets. And of course, I showed you that it integrates into any email kind of system, giving you access, giving people proactive notifications of what is happening with the Edge devices. And you might say, oh, okay, so what about this? Well, key things about this, it is really easy to do. And this is the typical things that people struggle with when they do these remote monitoring, these edge IoT kind of thing. You know, they need things like APNs and VPNs. Using this kind of solution, you don't require an APN to be set up. You don't require a VPN to be set up. You don't have to have public IP addresses published, which makes it extremely secure, extremely easy to implement. It runs over low bandwidth. It runs over intermittent connections, making it extremely easy to develop these applications and provide value very quickly to our users. So I hope that you found this intriguing. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them if I know the answers, of course.